Morning again, everyone. Welcome to Bitcoin for Nonprofits. Thrilled to have Josh and Enrique here. Perhaps before we even begin with your organizations and the work that you do, I'd just like to start with a personal perspective. So I'd love maybe starting with you, Josh, just to hear, how did you first hear about Bitcoin, and tell us about your personal Bitcoin journey?
I first heard about Bitcoin back when I was in college in 2017, not too long ago, but at the time I had probably $2,000 to my name, net worth, and I put it into Ethereum, which turned into like 10,000. I paid off my semester, but the journey for Bitcoin in my career was at New Story. We build homes in El Salvador. We've built close to 1,000 homes so far. And I was bringing down one of our donors to one of the communities. And right before that week, the U.S. News World Report, U.S. Today, did a feature and an article on Bitcoin Beach and Mike Peterson. And it was so serendipitous because we were going down. So I reached out to Mike, and we talked about it, me and my CEO, about doing a project using Bitcoin for mortgage repayments. And
Let's not give away the end of the story.
Okay.
So you read a newspaper article recently, and you decided to buy some Bitcoin.
Last
That's what
summer,
I'm hearing.
yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And Enrique, why don't you tell us how you first heard about Bitcoin?
Well, first of all, I'm a dentist. So back in 2014, I was visiting San Francisco, California, to study the digital dentistry. In that moment, I met Bitcoin because of a friend that is working with softwares. You know, in digital dentistry, we work with softwares. So in that moment, it was the first time. It didn't catch my attention. It's like in the United States, you have a lot of platforms or several platforms to get goods and services, you know, so it didn't catch my attention. But recently, 3 years ago, where the Bitcoin economy started at El Zonte, so I decided to be part of that dynamic, you know, and that's why I was really involved in Bitcoin totally. So it was a part of my studies, and since that moment, I just decided to continue learn about it, and in some point, I just left everything that I learned before, and I just like open and trying to be allowed to catch and to nurture myself, not only in my career, but in this case with Bitcoin. So everything led me to what I'm doing right now.
Okay. And so let's just take a slight step back. So you're a dentist by training, correct?
Excuse me?
You're a dentist by training.
Yes, I studied 8 years here in the University of El Salvador. It's the first and only public university. It's a pretty good prestige in health careers. And besides that, I had the chance to go abroad, in this case to California and Boston, you know, to get digital dentistry and implants. So I just trying to continue performing and nurture myself in my career and in what we are doing with the initiative as well. So by training, I'm a dentist, but I worked during 16 years as well in media broadcasting and, and media production. It was a totally different world, but that's what I am here as well.
And how long have you been back in El Salvador practicing dentistry here?
It's like dentistry since I just finished my career. So back in 2005, I started to work as a dentist. And it's the way all started. I was sent by the Ministry of Health in 2005 to a remote area. This area, it is the highest part of the mountain in La Libertad, where El Zonte is. So I have to stay there. It was the most centric village between the city and my work unit. So I decided to rent a room in this rustic beach, full of foreigners and backpackers playing in the volcanic sand, So it was pretty amazing the way I just landed there. So since 2005, I'm being immersed in this community, and working with the impoverished communities of the Pacific coast of La Libertad. That is our department. So since 17 years ago. And I was going back and forth and trying to continue my education abroad or here, remotely,
Fantastic. And for both Enrique and Josh, I think the audience might have some trouble hearing you. If you could just hold the microphone very close to your mouth, that would be great. And so Josh, this is a panel, Bitcoin for Charities, but let's put the Bitcoin aside for a moment. Why don't you tell us about News Story, the genesis of the organization, how you got involved, and what the mission is?
For sure. So I work with News Story Charity. I'm the chief of staff, and we do affordable housing, mostly in Latin America. We work in Mexico. We started in Haiti and also El Salvador. Those are our three main places. We pioneer solutions to end global homelessness. There are 1.6 billion people in the world living today in inadequate shelter and homeless. And we're working towards making solutions that lower the cost of home building while maintaining or even increasing the quality of the homes being built and decreasing the time it takes to build these homes. That led us to pioneering the solution of 3D printed homes. We built the first 3D printed homes, made them in Mexico for the world's most vulnerable families. And that's what we're determined to do. Bring innovation to those who need it most first, when rarely they see innovation first, if at all.
So let's unpack some of the details here.
Yeah.
And so what year was News Story created?
2015. So we actually got accepted into Y Combinator, which is the biggest startup accelerator in the world, probably. They produced Coinbase, Airbnb, a list of other very successful for-profits. We were the first nonprofit to ever be accepted and go through it. And that really set the DNA for the work that we've done since then. It allowed us to think differently about charity. And News Story was made not just for the news stories we provide when families can get homes, but also a news story for charities. We were accepted because we have a 100% transparency model. We call a group of our donor base the builders. It's about 60 families right now, and they donate completely to our operations. So they pay for my salary, for events that we might host. And that way we can promise that 100% of anybody else who donates goes to home building costs. And that is something we're really proud of. And not a lot of charities, you can actually see where your money is going exactly. And we actually have two separate bank accounts that never touch. So our operations funded by those families, high net worth individuals mostly, and then home building funds donated by the masses, or we also have people who want to fund one home, which is about $10,000 on average between the three countries.
Great. And one last question, Josh, before we get back to Enrique. I mean, you mentioned 1.6 billion homeless people globally. Mm-hmm. I mean, that is a staggering number.
Yeah.
You know, your charity is doing great work. It's a young organization. Can you just give us some sense of where you're doing work right now and the number of homes that you've built thus far?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have been building homes for 5 years, 6 years, and we have made 3,000 homes. and impacted about 15,000 people. Life change for them and their families, and they can pass down the homes for generations. And we build differently. We use 100% local labor and 100% local materials. We don't do volunteers. That way we empower the entire community. We pay everybody at a profit, so that really boosts the entire economy of the community. And then we construct these communities in a way that families get buy-in. We've learned that families actually want to pay for their homes. So we did do historic work using 100% philanthropy, but now we're moving to a subsidized model where it'll be half philanthropy and then half a loan. And in El Zonte,
let's just pause there. We can tease it out. We've got a few minutes to go in the panel session. Yeah. So let's get back to Enrique. So I mean, Enrique, a lot of people in this room, myself included, are very privileged, right? We have access to world-class healthcare. We have access to dentistry. Why don't you give some perspective just in terms of, you know, where you've been practicing in recent years and kind of what the standard of access or lack of access is, and give some perspective on the work that you're doing.
Okay. Basically, living or being immersed in impoverished community, it's shocking, you know. So talking about El Salvador, according to its economic, social, cultural, and geographical profile, we are a vulnerable country, you know. But besides that, you know, the 82% of the whole population in the country suffer from cavities. From this 80%, the 78% of school-age children between 6 and 15 years old suffer from cavities as well, and from periodontal problems. The 45% of the whole population sometimes it's living in poor conditions, you know. So the lack of education, the lack of health care, you know, the difficult access for them to a good salary or a job, you know, or basic needs like water, food, anything. It's like provoking that these people live in a struggling situation. So since that moment, we decide to work, and we are working for being inclusive and trying to be accessible for these people, and trying to like provide dignity and provide some confidence in these people that during decades, you know, have no chance at all, not just financially, but indignity in life. So that's like the main problem we are approaching in our practice, trying to be accessible for all these people that cannot afford a career or dental access that it's pretty much expensive in the whole world. So basically it's what we are doing in the organization or the initiative. I do have to say that I represent proudly Bitcoin Smiles, and it's a wonderful initiative of BTC Pay Server and Bitcoin Design. Started like a dream, but then suddenly switched to a wonderful initiative, and actually we are getting more, or we have more than 900 contributors or donors in bitcoinsmiles.org. They are helping us to provide critical dental care to these people, and obviously rehabilitation. Normally in the country we have lack of prevention or preventive projects in the community. So normally our approach it's corrective or rehabilitation, but to get rehabilitation sometimes it's pretty much hard in our country because of the situation we are talking about. So that's our goal, providing these people with confidence, dignity, and of course, a good rehabilitation in oral or dental health care.
Sure. And so when did Bitcoin Smiles come together, and what was the genesis of the idea? Who had the idea to bring this all together?
Actually, when the Bitcoin law announcement was made, there was a lot of people trying to get in contact with Salvadorans to know firsthand about what's going on in the country. So in this case, I met Pavlinix from BTC Pay Server. He contacted me, and we've been talking about the reality and how El Salvador is, our currency, some details that led us to share even personal information. So we became friends on Twitter, in this case, and suddenly, in a matter of 2 weeks, he got a multicultural team, and he created, and we created together, like this initiative. So we are talking about, because of publication of Bitcoin magazine, Pavlinix told me, literally, guys, you are bringing smiles to El Salvador. And it's because of my first patient that it's part of the Bitcoin Beach community, 65-year-old person, a hard worker, a worker of the land and the farm, and a construction worker. So he saved in Bitcoin, and he wanted like the dentures he always dreamed about the whole life. So because of that, the initiative was so hard that we created like the crowdfunding and it was like released or launched on August 17th. So 4 months later, we do have to say that we have more than 900 donors. It's still active, bitcoinsmiles.org. And we have a bunch of companies, wonderful companies that are supporting us. And in a matter of months, several months, we are becoming in a great initiative. Actually, in the public here right now, there are a dentist, and there are people that it's going to volunteer. And it's like they are in the conference, but at the same time, they are going to work and they are going to know the needs of the population we are working in El Zonte. So for the future, become a huge like example, and maybe some people could be like moved by our initiative and create better ones or in the whole world, not just acting locally. So
Sure.
basically, the crowdfunding in 4 months, it's like a wonderful organization in the future.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And so obviously Enrique is working in El Zonte. Josh, you and News Story are on the ground in El Zonte as well. You mentioned you've built 3,000 homes to date in a number of different countries. How did you get connected to, Mike Peterson and Jorge and Chimbera and the team in El Zonte, leading to, breaking ground recently on a couple hundred homes there?
Yeah, we've produced a few homes, all pioneering different solutions. As I mentioned before, like there's 1.6 billion people. We know we can't do it alone. So we're partnering, we're sharing everything we learn, and ultimately, like that's led to a lot of our success and some of our press. We've been featured in an Apple TV documentary. We were actually just recently on the front of the New York Times business section, and we're now pioneering the solution of mortgage repayments with Bitcoin, thanks to you guys at Galoy, Jorge, Mike Peterson at Bitcoin Beach. We met Jorge and Mike this summer. Just serendipitous, we were coming down with a donor, and then the U.S. Today published an article, and I happened to read it. My CEO and I talked about it because over 80% of families are unbanked in all of Latin America, but a lot of them have smartphones, and then with the initiative of making Bitcoin legal tender here in El Salvador and the Bitcoin Beach initiative that already had a lot of traction, a local economy that was working, it just kind of all came together. We already had local partnerships with the Ministry of Housing and some home builders, so we kind of got to move kind of quickly, and they were willing to meet with us, and it just kind of seemed like a perfect way to offer affordable loan repayments for the world's most vulnerable families.
So you're about to embark on building 200 homes in El Zonte, correct?
Yeah, between 150 and 200 homes.
And you just broke ground on the first series of homes?
Yes, we did. We got some funding from Coinbase and Give Crypto, and then because of Jorge and Mike Peterson, they granted us some land to do the first pilot homes, which is going to be pretty awesome. We just broke ground last week. The families are really excited. It's truly like, I got to talk to some of them like a dream come true.
And the first 8 families can move into their homes when?
We don't like to give like specific timelines, but definitely by February.
Okay, and then the novel thing here is half of the home is subsidized through charitable donation, half of the home cost,
Yes.
and the other half of the home will be repaid through a novel Bitcoin monthly mortgage payment. Is that correct?
That's correct, yeah. We're subsidizing each house with philanthropy so that we can serve the world, like people in need of homes. And then the other half is going to be a loan that they pay back over 5 years. Families want to do this anyway, like it provides dignity and respect. We interview them beforehand, so we create homes that provide them what they need, what they want and look for, and then they pay us back over 5 years, and then they own the home, they own the land outright, and they've earned it, right? And
that's awesome.
And Bitcoin is making that possible for these families in El Zonte.
So there's a couple of themes here. One is bringing dignity to people in a way they've never had before, whether through corrective surgery for dentistry, whether providing people a proper home that they never had before, allowing them to have pride in actually paying for that home, even if a portion of that is subsidized. And then obviously you guys are doing something that's pioneering, right? Using Bitcoin, whether through a crowdfunding approach or a novel approach with a Bitcoin Beach wallet to make Bitcoin mortgage payments. And so you guys are doing stuff that quite honestly has never been done before. Another theme is obviously you're both operating in El Zonte, but given that you're doing stuff that's never been done before, what lessons learned do you have? If somebody's watching this either live here in the audience or on YouTube when we post the videos later, and they're watching and they say, hey, I want to do something similar, what lessons have you learned where you said, wow, I maybe should have done something differently or could have saved a bunch of time and money by taking a different approach? What would you share with people on that front?
Well, I always push myself, and I always thought that I was late in things. So I thought that I was late on Bitcoin. So I said, why didn't I start before? Or when it catch my attention by the first time. So I do have to say that I am privileged as well, learning by myself, but learning with a team like BTC Pay Server. I know personally as well Nicholas, so I know the work Galoy is doing as well. So I am a learner every day. But I do have to say to people that it's new for this or want to be introduced to Bitcoin, that this is your time, this is your now, so let it be magical. Sometimes we are blocked just thinking about there are many obstacles to get or to pursue things. But the thing is that nothing is impossible, and Bitcoin in this way, it's teaching us how tangible is and how transforming is this tool to change humanity. So they have to act now. Act now, jump off the cliff. It's the moment.
Okay, so insights, it's never too late. It's still early for Bitcoin. Do it now. Act now. Josh.
Amen to that. I would also add, you can probably skip exploring other blockchains and just go right to Bitcoin. We explored like what it meant to do transferring payments and what would be the best way. Took a couple of weeks, came to Bitcoin. It was the obvious choice, but as someone who is new to the space, that just was part of the process. Another thing that we've learned, and with housing, it works because it's an expensive type of project and people want to keep their money in Bitcoin or in other cryptocurrencies. So what we've been able to offer is we'll hold, if you want to donate now, you get the tax deduction, and we'll hold that Bitcoin for an agreed upon number of years and before we deploy it, right? So for someone who might think, why would I donate it now when I could donate it in 5 years and donate twice as much, right? But if you want to make that impact and allow us to plan for the future, plan housing developments, you can do so now and empower us to build more homes while we hold that Bitcoin. It helps us tremendously with the planning to be able to know how much roughly we have in our as assets. So that's something that we learned, that people want to have their Bitcoin held instead of, or other cryptocurrencies as well. But so we kind of came to that agreement, which has been productive for both parties.
That's great. So I think we have the capability with microphones in the audience. If there are any questions, now would be a nice time to open up. It looks like we got one question over on the right-hand side from my vantage.
Thank you. Yes, on the news story side, it's really inspiring what you all are doing, and why Combinator. What a privilege to be involved in them. 2 questions. What is your application process for recipients? I imagine there's probably more than what you can do, and so how do you do that? And then how is the labor pool? Are there people, enough locals to be building the houses, or are they coming from other villages?
Yeah, I'll start with the local labor part. We work with a organization located in El Salvador, that's their base, and then they help us contract in the different communities that we work in. So we've done communities in Nuevo Cuscatlán, El Espino, and each time we use local construction companies and local laborers from that community. And there is enough. There's plenty of talented workers to be able to do this work. And post-pandemic, it costs a little bit more because the materials have increased, but there's still a good pool of laborers. And then your first question was the adoption from the donation standpoint or from the family standpoint who will be repaying?
I think it was more, how do you approve? Is there an application process for people who want a new home?
Oh, for families who want, yeah. So historically, we have worked with local governments and local nonprofits to identify families that were the absolute most in need. After disaster projects, disasters like earthquakes, often the mayor will have a list of families who were most affected. For this project, we're still working with local government and the local nonprofits, but it will be who benefits most from having the home. Let's say someone has a mind to start a nonprofit or to start a business out of their home, or if they have family members who will be able to study, want to go to aspirations for law school, we believe that home is the foundation for everything. We do data intake surveys before and after. We've seen a 63% increase in income after families receive a home. We have seen graduation rates skyrocket. Once you don't have to worry about where you're going to sleep at night, or it opens up the possibility to dream, right? And it really gives you an opportunity to become who you were meant to be. So, yeah.
Great questions. Do we have other questions from the audience?
Yep, step here.
Right over here.
Thank you. This is for Josh. So, quick question. I come from Venezuela. We've been trying to organize similar initiatives, and one big issue down there, of course, we are afraid of is government intervention. I would like to know, in your experience so far here, like how key has been rather having a central government that is supportive out of the whole space rather than skeptical of it, or or having more authoritarian approach like we have down in Venezuela.
Yeah. So getting local partners to be on board and supportive of your initiative was key for us. So we partnered with some nonprofits in each of the countries that we have worked in: Mission of Hope in Haiti, Gente Ayuda Gente in El Salvador, and Echele in Mexico. They helped us form good government relations, and as much as we can do to kind of expedite the process, we don't want to be reliant on government help or grants or anything like that, but it definitely helps to have them supportive of your projects. I and News Story personally would prefer to have more authority, so we'd rather not have government lead projects, and it is definitely, but we're also not concerned about who gets the credit. So if the mayor or the Minister of Housing wants to make this part of their initiative, and we're happy to do so, and just empowering the entire local economy.
Enrique, any thoughts to share from the local Salvadoran perspective? And obviously Bitcoin is legal tender here, which is unique. It's the only country in the world that's the case. Has that made any difference, good or bad, in terms of your efforts with Bitcoin Smiles?
I consider we never had a clear chance like the current opportunity we have with Bitcoin. There are skeptical people, there are people that it's still doubt about getting to the Bitcoin movement or whatever, and it's working at a slow rate. In my case, as a professional, I consider that it's just me and not several more that it's accepting Bitcoin. In my supply chain, I have a little bit of trouble, but because some enterprise or companies or dental suppliers are afraid and they don't want to accept Bitcoin in my case. But it's a huge tool, it's a wonderful tool that the country is facing to change our society. We have a struggling society with a lot of projection to grow and a lot of projection to be ourselves, So I consider this is our chance. We never had a clear chance to develop ourselves, to believe in ourselves. And in this case, Lightning is helping us in a wonderful way, So I consider it's going to change the economics of our country. It's going to provide many opportunities for the one who want it. And totally, it's going to give us sovereignty, or we are going to be our own bank. We are going to be responsible for the change we want to provoke in our society. And obviously, Bitcoin doesn't need, it's permissionless, So do something for humanity with Bitcoin, and good things we don't need permission to do wonderful things in our world. You know?
Sure,
So,
and you should not need permission to have dignity
so
in this world.
it's going to help us
it's a powerful
in
concept.
a massive way.
Amazing. Stefan, do we have another question in the back?
Yep.
Hi, Josh. First of all, congratulations for the great initiative in supporting the local communities. I have two questions. The first would be, how do you mitigate the financial challenges that might impact the mortgage payments? And the second would be, are you targeting to focus on, let's say, renovating homes opposed to building them from scratch for specific communities?
So in El Salvador, we have only built homes from scratch. In Mexico, we have started an initiative where we do some like building on top of homes, right? For empowering the local communities and making sure that the mortgages can be paid back, we have and we're not in the business of evicting anyone. So like once you're granted a home, we'll work with you to make sure that you earn your house and you can pay it off. So for the 5 years, there will be like financial training, and if a tragedy happens in the family, that's the only time in our history that we've had any issues with repayments, is when like a family member died or a lost job. And then we've worked with them to help them get back on their feet and begin the repayment process again. Yeah.
Great. Stefan, do we have time for one or two more questions? Excellent.
Yes, we do. Yeah. I'll come over here.
Making our way across the sea.
All right, let's do this. Okay, over here.
Thank you. Just want to say that the work that both of you are doing is absolutely incredible, so thank you. And my question was around really the process of becoming a nonprofit that uses Bitcoin. Were there any kind of roadblocks in doing that? Because I know it's a very meticulous process trying to be a 501c3 in the States, so what is it like creating a nonprofit with Bitcoin, using Bitcoin, and do you see any current nonprofits thinking about it, and what's the buzz in the nonprofit community at this moment?
Enrique, you want to start?
It's me. I barely hear a little bit.
So the question was, can you talk about your experience of creating a nonprofit that uses Bitcoin? Did you face any specific compliance challenges, legal challenges, tax challenges, anything that people should be aware of that?
Well, in my case, it was so fast. The initiative evolves to a wonderful and a future organization. So I was supported by a crew that it's amazing the work they are doing. So I could say in that way, working with Bitcoin, with a crowdfunding and all those things, it was a little bit easy for me because I have the support of these wonderful people. But the challenge was, in my case, being through 17 years trying to knock doors, trying to show the good things we could do in the way of healthcare in our country. So 17 years later, maybe you could say you are going to be knocked doors every day of your life and you are not going to have an answer. But with Bitcoin, in my case, the answer was immaculate, was so fast, was incredible. So I consider having this asset, having this tool, it's easy now to change our reality. So legal aspects, I don't think so. In the dental profession, you offer like confidentiality in your patient. The same Bitcoin, You offer in dental treatments top-notch technology, and you believe in top-notch technology. So Bitcoin as well. And it's fast, it's reliable, so it's convenient for the patients. In this case, they want to pay with their smartphone, but it's convenient as well for the forgotten people. In our case, the forgotten people that never had access or the chance to get a bank account or goods and services or dreaming about like improving their personal life. Bitcoin, it's like it's the thing that it's bringing these people being inclusive in a future wonderful world, you know. So Bitcoin in this way make us easy to help these people. So there are challenges, but not yet. I didn't find out what challenges.
It sounds like Bitcoin makes things easier. It doesn't bring any new challenges. So Josh, obviously our organizations are partnering to enable these Bitcoin mortgage repayments. Just to be clear, that will start either in January or February. So it's not quite there yet, but have you encountered any unique challenges related to Bitcoin in the context of running your nonprofit?
Yeah, so our nonprofit wasn't founded with Bitcoin, so there was some skepticism in even accepting it as a donations in the beginning, and then starting this project. We've always been risk takers, our organization. Now, not in the way that we're putting all our eggs into one basket, but we truly believe that Bitcoin is the future of finance. And with this, we want to make sure it's used as an opportunity for those who need it most, which is really the foundation of why Bitcoin was made, to provide that a level playing field for everyone to be provided the same opportunities. And having a home is like the best asset opportunity that anybody can wish for. So it was impossible to ignore when we could provide homes for people in need using Bitcoin as an avenue to do mortgage repayments. Now they don't have to do in person, pen and paper. Every transaction is recorded so people aren't taken advantage of. And the instant transaction and using Bitcoin, we're able to do it without much fees at all. So all around, it's been cool. But there was definitely a lot of skepticism going in, and had to give a couple pitches about.
Okay, but once you overcame those problems, I hear Bitcoin fixes everything. That's what I'm hearing. Enrique, you got one thought you want to tack on?
Bitcoin fixes teeth as well.
Okay, even better, even better. Stefan, I think we have time for maybe one last question. Is there another question in the audience? We've got one up front here. Gentleman right in the second row, right front and center.
Oh, okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. No, thank you. I was going to start speaking Spanish, but I got, you know, everything that you all are talking about is interesting to me, and I guess I wanted to say or ask if Galoy, if you're the company that, so to speak, facilitates the financing of suppliers, or the 3D equipment, or I don't anything along that line in your relationship with News Story. The work of building the actual houses themselves. I believe you said something that you use local materials, but of course the 3D design that doesn't involve equipment and computers and
well, this community.
I might just summarize the question for the audience's benefit if you couldn't hear it. So there was a question just about the building of the homes with News Story in El Zonte, the supply chain. Are we using Bitcoin to pay for any elements of that? The short answer is, at least not with the Bitcoin Beach wallet. So we're partnering with News Story. The mortgage payments on a monthly basis will be made over a 5-year period through the Bitcoin Beach wallet. Josh, you can share whether suppliers are being paid in Bitcoin separate and apart from that.
Yeah, so this community in El Zonte won't be 3D printed. It's going to be built using EcoBlocks and the local partners. And the labor, just to expedite it, probably only some will be paid in Bitcoin if they opt into it. We don't want to force anybody to be paid that way.
Sure.
So that's the short answer.
Okay, great. Well, I think we're nearing the end of our time. Josh, do you have any closing thoughts or words of wisdom you would like to impart on the crowd? I mean, Bitcoin fixes teeth is tough to follow.
For sure. Home changes everything. We truly believe that. And if you want to be a part of that journey, we offer 100% tax deductible on your donations. $10,000 funds a life-changing opportunity for a family in need.
And how do people find you online?
Newstorycharity.org.
Amazing. Enrique, final thoughts?
Okay, we will continue providing confidence and dignity to the impoverished communities through oral rehabilitation. BitcoinSmiles.org is the internet page you could donate. We are pretty grateful about you helping us to change the reality of these communities. And it's a Lightning Summit, so I have to say the 93% of donations we have in BitcoinSmiles.org, they are through Lightning Network. So
Amazing.
It's amazing. So thank you so much, and enjoy El Salvador.
So, I mean, obviously you're both doing pioneering work, bringing dignity to people in El Zonte. We've got the first 2 days of the conference here, obviously at the Sheraton, but day 3 is in El Zonte at Bitcoin Beach, where this whole movement began. So please join us for day 3. You can tour the town. We'll have an open-air Bitcoin bazaar. You can interact with the merchants who have been using the Bitcoin Beach wallet for the last 15 months. You can maybe visit the property where the homes are going to be built for from News Story.
Yes, construction started, so you can see the land being dug up, and at least it's pretty cool at the start of the process.
Amazing. And so that'll be 10 a.m. till 6 p.m. on Thursday in El Zonte, and then we're going to close the conference with a barbecue, sunset barbecue on the beach in El Zonte as well. So please join for that. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you,
Thanks
Chris.
so much.